Speaking of going for it, we've got a speaker from representing Brazil. Anyone from Brazil here? Raise your hand. There we go. We've got Brazilians in the house. We've got someone who is empowered, who went for it and made sure that he fought hard to make sure that his studies and become a professional, if anything, in Australia. We've got a civil engineer. And speaking of, I actually looked in his LinkedIn, based on what Marian actually advised, and he has been an operation manager and someone who is a founder. Well, he has been a leader in the community when it comes to civil engineers. Give a big hand for Gerson Ida.
Muito obrigado, muchas gracias, thank you, domo arigato. As you can tell, from some sort of an Asian background, so Japanese background is my heritage from my parents. So I was from Brazil again, so that becomes one of the dangerous places in Brazil. A lot of Brazilians, not just joking. Engineers. Wow. Oh, big crowd. Yeah, so a lot of responsibility. Keep your hands up. Those ones that are not engineers, but knows an engineer that needs to work in Australia. That's everybody here. Alright. So I'll see if I can help a little bit. Got a little bit of a presentation, I'll try to be quick. So just it's a workshop to how to validate engineering qualifications here in Australia. Who hasn't got engineering qualification recognized? Yeah, why was Easter this year? It was rainy, if you remember. I didn't have my family, we didn't book anything to do, etc. So I decided that Friday, Good Friday, I was going to start a website. And then I did. I just sat down on a Friday, Good Friday, and I started www.engineersinaustralia.com, which originally was a site just for Brazilians to help Brazilian engineers to recognize their qualification, because I did that 10, 12 years ago, and it was really hard. So I thought maybe I need to share what I know. 10 years work as an engineer. I sit in the panel with Engineers Australia for those ones that are recognized and they want to become CPEng or RPQ here in Queensland. So I thought, and I've seen so many professional engineers in Engineers Australia just failing because they didn't know how to do a CV, they didn't know how to present themselves. During the professional interview, it was just a disaster. And some of them, they actually lost their jobs because companies were counting on them to become a chartered professional engineer to be able to sign off plans. And because they didn't pass, they caught up with me later on and said, Gerson, I think I'm going to lose my job. I said, sorry, but as a professional engineer, we, the panel, we could not approve you because you've got some gaps. So you've got 6 months to fulfill those gaps. And those sort of things started to mounting on me, and I thought, there must be something that I can do to help them out. So I started this site, was in the beginning a little bit of a hobby and tried to help engineers, but it started to get evolved and evolved and evolved. I created a WhatsApp group, it went to 256 participants in 1 month. I had to create a Telegram now because it kind of each group has capacity of 200,000 people. So when I reach 200,000 people in my Telegram group, I'll be happy. So I've got a whole heap of qualifications, most of Latin people. Same thing, you know, you finish school, you don't have gap year, this sort of things, you don't have schoolies, no sort of things. You finish year 12, you go straight to university, and nowadays you finish university, you go straight to masters, And a lot of people, they'll go straight to PhD. Because every man and a dog, they've got a degree. So you've got to be different. And that's why I'm not different. I did a lot of courses because when you go to get a job, the hiring manager, are you an engineer? All right. I've got another 60. What else do you have? Oh, I've got a master's. I've got a PhD. Oh, all right. Yeah, but I just can't pay you the base salary. Now that's fine, because if I don't take it, I will be unemployed. So I did all the journey, and my wife, back in 2005, she's an international trader. But she didn't speak English. So that's interesting. And then she decided, I'm going to go to learn English. I'm going to Australia. I said, oh, good. And she said, we're going in 3 months' time. And we all had good jobs. I had a very good job in Brazil. And I said, you're kidding. So now we quit. So we all quit the jobs, came to Australia, stayed 6 months, and here we are, 14 years. And then we found out that I could become an engineer, because back in 2005, a lot of demand for engineers. So I did all the process, as probably a lot of you. I worked as a cleaner for 8 months, cleaning toilets, working the ECA, frying fries, cleaning toilets and everything, etc. Yeah, I did all of that 8 months. I got a sponsorship because the school that I was studying, I did a CV, and I asked my teacher, can you check? And he said, is it you? Yes. My mom needs somebody like you. And then I got a sponsorship. But I didn't get my PR with the sponsorship. I applied as skilled independent. But anyway, and this is the letter that all of you engineers, you want to have. That's your recognition letter. It's when Engineers Australia sends you congratulations, your curriculum and your experience is recognized as a professional engineer here in Queensland, in Australia, and that's your code for your immigration purposes. So that's what we are all after. Recognize ourselves as an engineer. And why to recognize? One, because, we are engineers. Those that are engineers, we don't want to still working as a cleaner or a deliverer or a kitchen hand or something. Nothing wrong with that. I work at that. I still got 2 legs, 2 arms. I didn't get disabled. But we are engineers, and we want to work as an engineer. Because we can work doing the things that we used to do back in our mother country. So just some pictures just to motivate you guys. These are the sort of things I work with roads, infrastructure, and that's the sort of things that we do. We want also the opportunity to migrate to Australia. Those that are doing skilled migration, this and that, if you're not recognized, you cannot migrate. There are other ways, of course, that Sebastian, Bianca, and others, they can talk about it, but, it's a prerequisite. And beginning of a family transformation, here you can go to Bali, sometimes Jetstar, $300, you return ticket, you go there and come back, etc. And at least for me, from Brazil, offer a better condition to grow my daughter and my family here in Australia without having the concerns of other things. So outside, I've got some business cards with my social media. If you want to help my job in spreading the message, if you can subscribe and this and that and like, it helps a lot, because those social media, they don't distribute content if we don't have likes. But my daughter, she says, Dad, you've got now 41 videos. You should see my first video. My first video is in my YouTube channel. You will love it until you will die, because it's so terrible, so terrible. But she said, and she's a bit of a YouTuber as well. She's just 11. So, yeah. So what are the topics here? So we talk about CDR. Everybody knows, of course, what CDR is. Competency demonstration report, CPD approach, continuing professional development, career episodes, and summary statements, and the next steps. Because we're human beings, we love to procrastinate. Now we gotta do this. Oh yeah, tomorrow I'll do it. Oh yeah, we gotta improve our CV. That's fine. I'll just copy and paste. It should be. So we love procrastination. So you're gonna do it. I'm not going to those details, but if you download the Engineers Australia Skills Migration Assessment booklet, that's the same CDR stages in the booklet. Personal information, application, education. So just probably English test is in that phase is the one that's a little bit difficult. You've got to have 6 in IELTS and other in TOEFL and PTE, etc. And
what does it mean CDR?
CDR is Competency Demonstration Report, because there are 5 pathways to become an if you graduate, I think, from 2013 in some recognized institutions, it's under that accord. You don't need to do a lot. You just need to apply and this and that, etc. If you graduated before that, then you've got to do CDR, Competency Demonstration Report. The other pathways for technologists, engineering technologists, under the Sydney Accord. Also, there are a number of countries that are signatories to that accord. If you're trying to recognize yourself as engineering technologist, and if you are from some of those countries, in those recognized institutions from that year that they signed the accord, you can apply it under the Sydney Accord. And if you're a technician or an engineering technician or associate, you can apply under the Dublin Accord, which also has a number of countries signatories and years and institutions. But then if you're not from those countries, or before those countries they sign up to those accords, there's a 5th pathway, which is the CDR pathway, Competency Demonstration Report, where you have to pretty much get all your documentation, your English test, and some referee letters from your former employers or current employers. Prepare a report, which is your CPD, Continuing Professional Development, the career episodes in the summary statement. I'll go quickly through some of those. So your CPD is your Continuing Professional Development. It means that once you've graduated, there are a lot of activities that you can consider as your CPD. And by the way, Engineers Australia is one of the few, if not only the only one, who does not require professional experience to be recognized. So if you're just a graduate engineer, let's say that you graduated yesterday, tomorrow you can apply to be recognized as a professional or as an engineer here in Australia. You'll probably struggle a little bit with the CPD, but CPD is not just post-graduation courses or masters or PhD. It can be day-to-day activities that you do, the reading of technical magazines and journals, studying of the technical specifications, and etc. So a lot of things, conferences, this event it could be part of your CPD. Voluntary work. If you do coaching, for example, when I participate in interviews in Engineers Australia, I get 5 hours of CPD, because I've got to read reports, I've got to read career episodes, I've got to ask questions, I've got to participate in interviews, etc. It counts towards my CPD as well. Career episodes. That's the biggest thing. All engineers know I have to write between 1,500, 2,500 words 3 times, because there are 3 career episodes that you're going to write. And it's a bit tricky, because in those career episodes, and they can also be from your academic experience when you were studying, or from your professional experience. But you gotta address 16 competencies for professional engineers, for example. If you apply for professional engineer, there are 16 different competencies that you gotta address, and you gotta demonstrate that you've done it. So the national assessor from Engineers Australia will see, all right, competence number 1 was addressed in this particular part of the career episode. And once you tick all those 16 competencies, the national assessor, together with the other documentation, of course, they'll probably approve and issue you the letter. Interesting that the career episodes needs to be something that you've done. So some people, they get temptation about, some like people, they copy and paste cover letter and CVs, etc. Some engineers that probably procrastinated too much, they copy and paste, or they ask companies to write on their behalf. And there's a warning in the booklet about plagiarism. And you should see a message, and there is actually a podcast and one video that I put in my YouTube channel. A colleague engineer that sent me a message in WhatsApp saying, Jason, Engineers Australia did not approve my CDR, and I got banned for 12 months because they found copies of images on the internet. So what can I do? He asked me. I said, well, not too much. There are some revision processes, informal revision and formal appeals and this and that. But a revision, and he's gone through the informal revision and got it still not approved. And the formal appeal takes 9 months. Engineers Australia, they put together an independent panel, takes 9 months, and you gotta pay, I don't know how much, but and that's a definitive answer. So don't get tempted. Everybody completed a graduated course, you're more than able to write yourself. You need a little bit of effort, a little bit of guidance, but you can do it. So don't get tempted. There's a lot of companies, you put CDR in Google, the first sponsored advertisements are companies, even here in Australia, that you send, I was reading, you send your CV and they do everything for you. So they even give you a certificate of non-plagiarism. And we from Brazil, when you go from, anybody from Paraguay before? They say it's the same thing that you go to, let's say from Brazil, when you go to Paraguay, we buy fake stuff, And it's like you go to Paraguay, you buy a fake iPhone 10, that's fake, and the guy says, oh, it's authentic, I give you a certificate. That's the same thing that these guys are doing, so don't get tempted. And then the summary statement is another difficult, probably, document to fulfill, because these are one of the competencies, or a few of the competencies, and then you gotta write why you think you're competent, and then you gotta number the paragraph, because each paragraph, when you write your career episode, you gotta number each paragraph. Career episode number 1, paragraph number 1, 1.1, and then you write a paragraph. 1.2, you write the paragraph, because when you're doing your summary statement, then you're going to address here. Let's say knowledge of contextual factors impacting the engineering discipline. Very easy. It's just a piece of cake. I've done this because I've done this, and I can prove because it's in paragraph 2.3 or 2.1, 1.18 more than that. So imagine I took 8 months to do it because it was really, really difficult. Because we engineers, we're not good at writing stuff. So what's the next step? Well, one, you've got to read the booklet and you've got to really, really read it and understand. And you've got to do it. And also, and that evolved, because a lot of people asked me if I could give consultancy. But I said, no, I can't. Because I work full-time, I don't have time, I've got a wife, I've got a daughter, I've got a house. And I don't have time to do it. So, but a lot of people, more than 20 people ask me, oh Jason, can you help us a little bit more? Your videos are good, but it's going to take a long time. So I did a step-by-step online kind of mentoring. So, and I'm currently in the second group now. I finished the first group. Some are finishing the writing, and the second group is happening now. So if you want to have a look, if you go to my website, there's some information about it. There are a lot of videos in YouTube. when I talk about what to do it. And that's it. And for those that are already validated, it's important to say that if you're working as an engineer here in Queensland, you either gonna have, if you're providing a professional engineering service, you either gonna be a registered professional engineer of Queensland or work under direct supervision of an RPQ or following a prescriptive norm. If not, you're incurring criminal offense. So the Board of Professional Engineers, they can actually sue people that are not registered. So my next step, I'm thinking about helping engineers that are already validated to become a CP-Eng or RP-Eng or RPQ. All right, so if you have any questions, send some suggestions, and thank you very much.
Obrigado. Yes, obrigado. A gift from Gerson. Gerson, just very quickly.
I just forgot to tell you guys, I've got a free ebook. I've written an ebook, 10 challenges that overseas engineers they face when they arrive in Australia. Just a little bit of my experience. It's in Portuguese and English, so it's there. It will be sent to your email. It's all for free. Just enjoy. And thanks, Sebastian. Thanks very much, everything.
Thank you, guys.